Okay, so in right triangle ABC, angle A is the right angle, and length of BA is equal to 48, length of AC is equal to 64, and length of BC is equal to 80. Use this right triangle and your knowledge of trigonometric ratios to determine the values of x and y in the application of the Pythagorean identity shown below. You should not need to do any calculations. Examining the triangle and applying the definitions should suffice. So 1 equals sine squared c plus cosine squared of c. That is the Pythagorean identity. That is what they're talking about. The next one is 1 equals x over 80 squared plus quantity of y over 80 squared. So for this triangle, x equals blank and y equals blank. So the first question that I'm going to ask is what angle is given as our reference angle. So in the Pythagorean identity right here, it says sine squared of c. So that means that angle C is the angle of reference. So now we label the triangle, label triangle according to angle C's perspective. So we have our hypotenuse, which is across from the 90-degree side length, 90-degree angle. So side length BC is the hypotenuse. Our angle of reference is C. So to label the other two sides, I always label the opposite side length first because it's the side length directly across from the angle. So side length BA is the opposite side length. And the last one to label is the adjacent side length, which means next to. So we have our adjacent side length as length AC. And then the next thing we're going to do is in the Pythagorean identity, we have 1 equals sine squared of C plus cosine squared of C. So what is sine? This can be rewritten also, just so you know that it could be rewritten as this. In math, traditionally though, they do like to put the squared between the sine and the angle, but it can also be rewritten as cosine of C, and it would look like this: cosine of C squared. So this one would actually have parentheses written around it too, and that might actually help clear up a few things that we're doing. So sine of angle C, sine again is the opposite side length divided by the hypotenuse side length ratio. So when we look for sine of C, we are going to have the opposite side length, which is 48, divided by our hypotenuse, which is 80, and that one was squared. And then for cosine, cosine is again the ratio of the adjacent side length, and the adjacent side length is 64, divided by the hypotenuse, which was 80. So when we look at 1 equals x over 80 squared plus y over 80 squared, the x is 48 and the y is 64. So when you enter it in for your answers, it says to enter it in with a semicolon. So you would enter in 48 semicolon space 64. I hope that helps.